Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Another thing that wasn't called on the Hitchens Paro undercard, 2 outsiders got split decisions on 2 house fighters signed up to arguably the biggest promotional entity in the game. Okay, fair enough, one of them was Puerto Rican, but the other one was Argentinian. Nobody's called that and said, well, that's rare. It is rare. Instead, all they wanted to talk about is how Eddie was getting his fighters beaten. It's just like becoming a joke out there, trying to talk real boxing.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Boatsy, apparently, according to you, doesn't want to go in with him. And I spent the entire summer listening to Ben Shalom wanting this fight for you.
Yeah, Ben
and
Shalom wants
Boatsy.
it. Yeah.
And being told by Ben Shalom that Boatsy wants this fight. He don't want Willie Hutchinson. He wants you. But without wanting to be hugely indiscreet,
Yes.
I know exactly how the Hutchinson fight was made.
You see, Simon cannot concede a debate, and he wanted to show off to RYADH about how much he knows about his contractual dealings with Boxer and Frank Warren and Ben Shalom. So he had to show off that he knows exactly why AY's proposed fight with Boatsy fell apart, how Joshua Boatsy's fight with Willie Hutchinson was constructed. In other words, he was part of the process of making that fight. He's denied that he was a part of Ben Shalom's Boxer outfit or that he has a financial interest in Boxer. Now, I don't know about the rules and regulations of commercial radio or what might be a conflict of interest. I don't have a clue. Could possibly be legal ramifications, or maybe it's just the ethical ramifications and his credibility. I don't know.
Frank Warren on Drive had a question for you.
I've seen the stuff that Simon Jordan put out about Eddie Hearn and myself, you know, how we sold our souls for RYADH season and whatever, and he champions Ben Shalom. I know that Simon has been out trying to raise money for Ben Shalom.
So we're all about objectivity. Are you trying to raise funds for Shalom and his company Boxer?
Well, he's a bit puzzled because what he's doing is he's responding to an observation that he made about me, which I responded to the other day. He made an observation that I spend all my time talking to Ben Shalom. Whatever vested interest I may or may not have in Boxer is nobody else's business.
Yeah, but let me push you more objectively in this. On Boxer. Are you on the board of Boxer? Have you put money into Boxer?
Of course not. The argument
you haven't invested in them?
Of course not. And neither have I sought to raise money for them.
So he's saying he doesn't have an involvement beyond giving advice, but he's there knowing how the whole of a deal for a fight was set up, but has no financial investment. And Frank said he knows that Simon has tried to raise money for Boxer. Frank wouldn't have said that without good reason, you would think. He's been in his fair share of writs himself, and he knows if he says anything out of turn to Simon, that lawsuit could be in his lap quicker than he could say Jack Robinson. But what do you know? What do you know? Simon is not threatening Frank at all. I wonder why.
As I understand it, and Simon has a financial stroke or business interest in Boxer. So how can we take him seriously on anything he says?
Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren have got together to take the mickey. I like Ben Shalom, and whatever vested interest I may or may not have in Ben Shalom's business is nobody else's business, right?
Normally, he would love to take an opportunity to shout down Eddie. How dare you say that? You're back out of order. You could get in trouble for that and blah, blah. But that was a tame response. In my opinion, he gave it away in the dialogue with Anthony RYADH. No one is going to be that intertwined into a boxing deal without some kind of financial investment or risk. No one. What advice could Simon Jordan give to Ben Shalom about negotiating a fight deal that Ben wouldn't know about himself or couldn't get from a solicitor, lawyer, etc., or some of the people at Sky who've been there for how long? Any of you mugs listening to this video who thinks Simon's advice is so brilliant that Ben Shalom needs it to conduct his business? Nah, he needs the money that Simon's raising for him or Simon's investing. That's what Ben Shalom needs.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
So according to Bob Arum, it's a major fight that makes so much sense. Now all that is needed is the money and the courage. Top-ranked chairman Bob Arum told Boxing Scene he's aiming to stage a welterweight fight between is 2-division and current WBO 140-pound champion Teofimo Lopez and unbeaten IBF welterweight champion Jaron Boots Ennis. Now, what's the courage part that's needed to make the fight? I don't get that bit, Bob. I'm sure if neither of them had courage, they wouldn't be taking the fight, surely. Bob's an attorney. He probably means courage to risk all that money in a fight that might not sell. The money part, however, it's not a fight that can be made if there's no pay-per-view money behind it in the USA, or if RYADH season ain't behind it. Now, Jaron has turned down this opportunity to fight Virgil Ortiz for the 154-pound WBC strap, interim strap, and he's came in for heavy criticism on the back of that decision. He didn't look good against Karen Shakatsian. Post-fight, straight away, he said he's going to move up to 154. And okay, heat of the moment, adrenaline still pumping and whatnot. You can't really take a fighter's testimony 100% serious at that time. But either he or Eddie said Boots is going to stay at 147 to unify. Well, that's not a unification. A fight with Lopez is not a unification. So what's happened to the negotiations with Brian Norman, Stanionis, or maybe even Barrios if he's not going to fight Conor Benn? What's happened with all that? Anyway, Aram said a top-rank attorney has been in talks with Ennis's promoter, Eddie Hearn, to make the bout, with the plan being to stage the fight as a joint pay-per-view on ESPN and DAZN. Aram said we would ante up for Teofimo and Eddie will ante up for Ennis. Okay, great solution. Dual promotion, dual pay-per-view on 2 platforms. Hopefully we'll get it free over here. Lopez had concerns that Top Rank couldn't fund the bout, and that's the solution, I guess, that Bob is bringing. It says here, this is Boxing Scene, big up Boxing Scene. Lopez has been perturbed by the cheaper assignments of Jermaine Ortiz and Steve Claggett this year, and he's lobbied for substantial, well-paying tests that will include Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia when he returned from his suspension. Now, obviously, Teofimo has looked at Boots' last fight against Karen Kozachian, and he wasn't too impressive, and like many a fighter around 147, 154, they're interested in Boots, but Teo is prepared to make that jump to 147. 5'8", not a bad height for Teo to go up to welterweight. The reach disadvantage for Teo, however, is near 6 inches. And I don't think he's got the power to hurt Jaron Ennis. Could he outspeed Jaron and take a 12-round decision? It's possible. If Jaron is struggling to do the weight, it could be Teo's time. Use that lightweight speed to possibly pull off an upset. And Jaron, not really a jab and keep distance guy, so maybe the reach might not be that much of a concern to Teo or Eddie Reynoso. They've studied it. I'm definitely interested in the fight. Will it satisfy the people who have said that Boots ducked Virgil Ortiz? Probably not. But yo, you can't win them all, can you? You can't win them all. And at the same time, it's not like Boots called out Teo. It's the other way around, isn't it? I'm on the Forbes magazine and they're saying at 147, Boots' options are limited. Stanionis is going to fight Gayasov. Brian Norman is going to take on this Derek Cuevas guy. And Conor Benn and Manny Pacquiao are both focusing on Mario Barrios.
Sai has said, have negotiations began for Boots and Teofimo Lopez?
There's been conversations around it. It's very early stages. Boots wants to unify at 147. So let's see how things play out. That doesn't mean that fight can't happen, but I think Boots' sort of dream is to unify his titles with someone else.
I want to big up October Red, the link to the video and the channel is in the description box. So from what Frank Smith is saying, it all depends on how deep they are into negotiating these unifications, basically. I don't think we'll really get a good read on what's happening until New Year, in all truth. If Matchroom was to make the fight, then strategically, Teo would have to give up that WBO belt, and that means that Jack Catterall would be able to fight Brian Barboza for the vacant strap. And if Catterall wins, then he's got a potential unification against Richardson Hitchens. It's all good.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Do you think next year that you will align yourself with one of the UK promoters?
I would love to. You know, I got options. Obviously, I've still got a good relationship with Matchroom. I got a good relationship with Frank Warren. So let's see.
The only 2 options for you? Yeah.
Who else is there?
What is Ben Shalom with Sky?
Yeah, there's been Shalom at Sky about Matchroom and Queensbury. Well, that's where all the boxing's happening at the minute. Sky is there as well, but let's see what happens, man. You can never write anything off.
Nice save by Dillian. Bit of diplomacy. Not writing off Sky as an option, I guess, but wasn't exactly his first choice, was it? Does he still partly manage Fabio Wardley? And if he does, he didn't send him over to Sky, did he? He brought him over to Matchroom when he had a fight-by-fight deal, and Fabio had a fight-by-fight deal with Eddie. I'm not sure if Eddie Hearn is best pleased with Dillian that Fabio went over to Queensbury rather than stay at Matchroom. But he was basically saying that Boxer is tosh. He didn't even remember them as an option. And yes, if there's a deal to be done with Boxer, of course he'll do one. But it's also a reminder how much boxing on Sky Sports has fallen off. Let's not forget, that's where Dillian first started making real money in boxing, is on Sky Sports. AJ, Dave Allen, Lucas Brown, Derek Chisora twice. And in 2024, he didn't even cite them as a possible option. Sky used to be the go-to platform for British boxing. But, you know, no Eddie Hearn, no Adam Smith, no Anthony Joshua.
They're just as good as dead.
Let's not forget, Dillian is fighting Ebenezer Tete on DAZN. Thomas Carty is on the undercard. Mike Perez is on the undercard. They're the only names I recognise. The card will take place in Gibraltar. Although Dillian claims he can fight in the UK. He said he's got a UK licence. He's got a British Boxing Board of Control licence. He was talking to Coogan and said that Derek should have waited rather than take the Otto Wallin fight, because kind of like I suspect, Wallin is going to be a very awkward fight for Derek. He's going to stay on the move, use them tricky southpaw tactics and try and steal the decision from Derek and bore everyone to death in the process. And I think Dillian predicted Otto Wallin to win the fight. And he said if Derek had just waited until the new year, after presumably Dillian flattens out Ebenezer Tete, they could have had a big fight. I mean, Dillian and Derek at the O2 does big numbers. Definitely does big numbers.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Martin Bakole, 21 wins, 1 defeat, 16 inside the distance. Takes on F.A. Ajagba, 20 wins, 1 defeat, 14 inside the distance. The fight will be an eliminator. For the IBF heavyweight title, currently held by Daniel Dubois, will take place next year. It was supposed to be on that February 22nd bill where Daniel defends the IBF strap against Joseph Parker. But the card is so stacked already. So stacked that Dubois versus Parker is not the headliner. The headliner is Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol, the rematch for the undisputed 175-pound titles. And the rest of the card is so stacked that if I break it down, it's going to take all attention away from Ajagba and Bakole. So let's move on with that. So Ajagba and Bakole will probably headline the next RYADH season card after Dubois versus Parker, and they could stage it in Africa. Bakole from the Congo, Ajagba from Nigeria.
As long as you're a black man, you're an African.
Some 50 years ago, it was the Rumble in the Jungle in Zaire, which is now known as the Congo, where Ali defeated George Foreman in one of the most monumental boxing fights in history. I have a feeling that would be the favoured location, though the Nigerians would love to stage this event. I always thought AJ would be involved in a major event in this era between two Africans, but AJ's a little sidelined from the action right now. It is what it is.
I'll be back.
Apparently PAPOOSE and Remy Ma, some of you are here for the boxing, have probably never heard of them. Yeah, they're two rappers. They're split up and they've been airing each other out on each other's infidelity. Well, I think Pap's a little overrated as an MC. I've heard a couple of joints from PAPOOSE that were exceptional a long while ago. The first version of Alphabetical Slaughter was exceptional. As for Remy, if Gloria Velez is putting hands on you, allegedly, you need to leave Claressa alone. Although I've heard Claressa mic'd up and she wasn't the worst, maybe you could have a rap battle. The winner can have PAPOOSE. Looks like he's got both of them strung out.
Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
MJ is the only fighter in the division that could beat Inoue or could even give him a good fight. And it's like, you've been ordered twice. I don't expect them to pick him as a voluntary, because I wouldn't pick MJ as a voluntary if I was promoting INOUE. Yeah. And when I'm calling it out, and I'm trying to get a little bit of momentum for fight fans, because they know a duck when they see one. This is a duck. You can't say that about INOUE. It's a duck. The WBA went, this is your mandatory, you got to fight him. Oh, we'll get an exception. Okay, you fight TJ Dehenny. The WBA say, but you can only fight Dehenny and then you must fight MJ. Okay, yes, we will, no problem. Beats Dehenny. Oh, let's look at another mandatory instead. No, you've been told you've got to fight him. And I don't think they'll fight him.
But yeah, he's ducking AKHMADALIEV twice. And the WBA have facilitated the duck twice. But it's all irrelevant if AKHMADALIEV doesn't look impressive on Saturday. In MONTE, CARLO, he headlines a Matchroom card. His opponent is Ricardo Espinoza Franco. Can't say I'm familiar. And the INOUE fans, they're not going to bring it to nobody's attention that he's swerving AKHMADALIEV. Yes, he's great. And lots of great fighters might have a duck or two on their slate. This card clashes with the boxer card on Saturday. And it's just like ridiculous, really. It's like no one's really learning from RYADH season. You got Chevon Clark fighting for the European title against Leonardo Moscow, who looks pretty good. He's 15-0. Chev is 10-0. But on the other card, in the exhibition centre in Liverpool, that Ben Shalom is promoting, you got Vidal Riley taking on someone with a 9-2-0 record. And you've got to ask yourself, why didn't they just match Chevon with Vidal Riley? Why hasn't that happened? Then again, if Chevon loses, they're going to say Eddie put him in too hard. While Vidal looks like he's got a soft touch. Another soft touch. Like, what's it doing for his profile? And what's he learning as a pro? And then on the main event in Liverpool, Natasha Jonas is taking on Ajagba. And Lauren Price has got her opponent. And they'll both be defending their welterweight titles. And the idea is Ben is going to match Lauren Price against Natasha in a unification next year if they both win on Saturday. Well, what if one of them gets cut really bad? Or what if one of them loses? You know, like, Lauren Price's career has moved pretty slow from that 2021 Olympics. 7 fights. Why not just put them in now? And Natasha Jonas, her trainer Joe Gallagher, he's been slating off Ben Shalom, saying it's a disgrace how Natasha's being treated. She's not getting no fights. And she's 40. Lauren Price is 30. Just make the fight now. Just wasting time. Neither of the cards are going to gain a lot of traction or any trending stories unless something jumps off out of the blue, and that's a possibility. But both Matchroom and Boxer, you're wasting resources now. We've seen the way forward. You've got clashing cards when you both could have merged the card together and had it on both your platforms and give the punters something really good to watch.